Hello, this is Dr. Mike McKinney. I'm president of Promise Christian University in the beautiful city of Pasadena. And we're very glad to be broadcasting from our studio here. And each week, as you know, throughout the several years that we've been broadcasting, we always try to bring very interesting guests and that could be informative and instructive and even inspirational in many, many cases. And we appreciate those of you that have been viewing all this time. So today, again, each time we try to bring a very, very interesting person, and I believe we have one today in Dr. John Mohler, MD. Dr. Mohler, it's a pleasure to welcome you on Promise Christian Live TV.
Thank you, sir.
And we'd like to let our viewing audience know about your background and some of the things you're involved with. I know that you have a tremendous background. So why don't we start by how did you choose the medical profession of all the professions at that time?
Well, really, that started in high school. I decided in high school that I was going to be a physician, and that was my goal. And so when I graduated high school at Fremont High School here locally early, and then I went to George Pepperdine, then college, and later university. And then the Korean War started, and I went into the Korean War as a Navy corpsman, and they taught me a lot of good things in that. And I then was sent to Yokosuka, Japan, in the Naval Hospital, who then in turn, I was put on a surgical team, who then in turn sent me to a Marine station in Nara, Japan, where I went through training to go into Korea. And at least I was supposed to do that. Then I went up to Camp Zama, to Nuclear Biological Chemical Warfare School. Marines sent me there, and believe me, that confused the Army terribly because I was sent to them by a Marine, but I was wearing a Navy uniform. They didn't know what to do with me. And so after that, I became interested in how to deal with chemical biological warfare.
And of course, a little bit later in the show, we'd like you to share with our audience, because I know that you're considered not only a physician, but also a chemical warfare expert. And you've been an army doctor for many years as well.
Yes.
Yes. So they didn't know what to do with you. You came into that Navy uniform.
So I came back, finished medical school, and then became commander of the 349 General Hospital and an Army hospital. And trained my people for deployment to Desert Storm. And then I went up north with them and went through their chemical biological warfare school again. And then when I finished the Army, I've been teaching civilians how to survive the first few minutes of an attack. Now, certain chemical agents, neurological agents, only give you minutes to survive. This VX gas, which is a terrible gas, it's a nerve agent, and they drop the size, if you look at a penny and look at the eye of George Washington, a drop on that big on a penny, if that's on your skin and not removed, within a few minutes it will kill you.
My goodness.
So getting it off is intensely important. And so I'm teaching people how to do that. And then I'm teaching people how to survive, say, an earthquake.
Oh, yes.
Now, if you have an earthquake, you have enough water for your family.
Sure. Well,
you got to
show our viewing audience today.
You've got to have one of those. You have to have 3 of those per person for 3 days minimum.
Right.
Because you're not going to trust the water supply after an earthquake in California. Mm-hmm. And we're going to have one. I mean,
So in other words, we're not talking about if, we're talking about when.
When, yeah.
And as a Army doctor and a physician and all, you believe that this, and a chemical warfare person, you're foreseeing a lot of things that could happen.
And so how do you survive all these things?
Yes, sir.
The drinking water, you have a backup supply. But then if you have one of these bottles,
yes,
you can take regular bleach, Clorox bleach,
okay,
and then put 1 drop in a bottle that size.
yes,
And then you have to wait 30 minutes before you can drink it. Now, I've already treated one.
all right.
Now, after 30 minutes, it's tasteless. If you doubt the taste, you can put in a pinch of salt or something or actually vitamin C will change the taste. And that makes it drinkable. But it only takes 1 drop. In one of these, it takes 3 or 4 drops. And let it sit 30 minutes.
Yes.
And and don't say, well, gee, if 3 is good, 10 must be better. Don't do that, because 10 will kill you. If you overtreat, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And it's important to realize that you can't, you got to be prepared. So you put some bleach in here, and then you get yourself a bag like this, a zipper bag. You can get them, and keep your Clorox in here, and you have one of these sponges. Now what you do with the sponge is you get these big bags. You can get these, or you can get any size you can, and you fill it with water, and you put your sponge in it, and you put your bleach in it, and you store it someplace where you can easily get to it, say in your car. And everybody should have one of these in your car. So if you're exposed to, most likely it would be a sarin gas, because that's the easiest gas to make. And that kitchen chemists can make that, and they did in Japan. If you remember, the subway incident was the sarin gas attack.
Yes, what happened on that, Doctor?
Well, there was a religious group, well, they say religious, I'm not so sure, it was a cult, that was fighting with the Japanese government about who's going to do what to whom. And so they tried to spray Tokyo with sarin gas, and they went up on the top of a building and released it into the wind. Well, that was a loss, because the wind just carried it out to sea. So they went down into the subway, and they had 3 trains that entered the subway at the same time. And they had a man on each subway train, and he had a bag, a balloon, filled with sarin. Now, sarin's not a gas, it's a liquid. It's a heavy liquid. If you slosh through it, it becomes gas. And but the problem is getting it on your skin. Well, as they entered the station, they thought, well, 3 trains, you poke a hole in the bag,
Yes.
and it runs out on the floor, and everybody walking through this stuff will create an effluent that will go up and contaminate the police station above.
Oh,
Well, that didn't
I
work,
see.
but it did kill about 12 people on the train. But it created such a panic that as many as 15,000 people in Tokyo, when the message went out over television, showed up in the hospitals and just flooded them.
Oh, my.
Just absolutely flooded them. And so that panic, not knowing what to do, how to take care of yourself, created a real problem. Well, if you have one of these, then, now this is a bigger bag. You can get smaller ones, Ziploc bags for freezer bags. And this is good, because then you fill this with water, and you pour your bleach in it. And preferably you want a 50-50 mixture, but some bleach in it, and a sponge you get soaked. And then the hardest part for people to comprehend is the need to remove your clothing. Now, if it gets on your skin, you can see where it is, because the muscle beneath the chemical agent twitches. It's called fasciculation. At that point, you know you have a contamination.
Is that like an immediate reaction once you're exposed?
Yes, but it's a droplet. The problem is it gets in your clothing, and if you wear your clothing, it's going to continue to be absorbed.
Oh, my.
And so the first rule is, if, say, you're in an auditorium and somebody dumps this out on you, first thing to do is get away from it. Get to an open space.
Right.
Because anything you inhale will immediately, the body will immediately start defending itself and reverse the reaction itself. And then you have to take your clothes off. Now, if you're too modest to take everything off, then leave your underwear on, but that's a risk, because I don't know where, but almost always it's heavier than air. It's all going to be down here, and it's going to be on your lower leg.
Oh, my goodness.
So you have this and the peroxide, or the chloride, the bleach. You take the water, you fill this with water, wherever you can get water, and you take your sponge and start sponging
doing it that
yourself
way.
down from top to bottom,
My.
starting at the waist, not the head, because it's down here. And now, we make a joke. I've been teaching this to some elderly groups, and my wife calls me the biggest terrorist in town because I scare little old ladies. And we joke and say, well, what's it going to look like in the news press when they come and find a bunch of naked little old ladies rolling around in the dirt? And I said, well, that may sound funny to you, but you'll be alive to laugh at it.
That's right. It's either that or be dead, right?
And you don't have much time. And if it's a VX gas, the most potent, which the average chemist in the street can't make, sarin they can make. Now, sarin is not nearly as potent as the VX, but it'll kill you in just minutes. And so you got to get it off your skin. So
Right.
when the police and the fire department and the first responders show up, you're ready for their complete evaluation and decontamination. They have decontamination trailers you can walk through and you do all that.
But at least they've
But you're
done
alive
the
to do that.
preliminary things that could save their life by acting quickly and knowing what to do, like you're telling us today.
It's your job to take care of the first 9 minutes.
I see.
And that alone is fatal to a lot of people.
So we've learned these things from other attacks in other countries and
Yes.
things that could possibly happen in our nation.
Yep.
And so we as citizens really, we need to be prepared, don't we, Doctor?
Yes, absolutely. Now, if we have an earthquake or a fire, such as they've been having back east, they haven't been earthquakes, but the destruction of homes, you have to have water. You have to have one of these.
Yes.
You have to have 3 of these per person for 3 days. So that's 9 bottles per person.
I see. Yes.
And so if it's going to last longer, then you may want more, but then it's got to be kept in a safe place. And you got to rotate these every 6 months.
I see.
They don't, and so, but if you find that you're in a place where all you have is this,
Right.
well, you can take regular bleach, household bleach, which I put in this syringe, and you can open this bottle and put in 1 drop. 1 drop. Make that clear, O-N-E, 1. And that's all you need, and then it sits for half an hour.
Okay.
Now, don't say, well, if 1's good, 3 is better. No, 3 might do you harm, and 6
Yes,
would-
too strong.
10's, yeah. Now, I've already treated this one, and you can drink after an hour, half an hour,
My goodness.
and it's tasteless. Now, if it has any taste to it at all, you can add things like vitamin C, or you can take a little bit of salt, a pinch of salt, and change the taste. But this will give you a pint of water. This is 700 cc's if you
I see.
like the metric system. And if you're saying, well, I don't know how to do all that, you get on the internet, you get all these conversion tables. So there's no reason not to know or
So
have
a lot
access
of the
to it.
things you're sharing today could be seen on the internet. They could be looked up, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
In fact, there's a public health purifying water during an emergency.
You might show that on that camera there, Doctor.
And,
yes.
You can get this easily on the internet, and it gives you all the details on the water purification.
Yes.
Now, if there is a bacterial or viral contamination, boiling the water is the treatment of choice.
Yes.
Now, if you can't boil, then you can use the bleach. But if it's cloudy, you have to filter it. You can pour it through, take a napkin or a cloth napkin or a clean handkerchief, and you can pour the water through that and filter it to pick up the sediment.
I see.
And then you decontaminate the water itself with the bleach.
My goodness.
Now, if you have doubts about that, you can buy tablets And this again is on the internet. One tablet is the treatment for 1 gallon. And you have to wait 30 minutes. As a Boy Scout, we used to use these tablets when we were up in the hills and you need your canteen refilled.
For dehydration and that sort of thing.
You go to the stream and you fill your canteen, and then you put in, we used to have these little pills. Well, you can still get those little pills. And this here we see off the internet, the MSR Aqua Tabs that will provide you a decontamination for...
Well, that's good to know that this information is on the internet. It's very valuable and life-saving things that we need to know.
But I want to reiterate, 1 quart of water, 3 drops of hypochlorite, of bleach. 3. And that doesn't mean 2 quarts is 6 drops. No, you don't multiply them that way. Half gallon is 5 drops. So it's a very tricky business to say, well, if I knew that this is 1 drop and I then multiply it, it doesn't work that way because chlorine goes, what you want is the chloride. And you can use the pills, and you can get various forms of that for swimming pools that you use for hypochlorite.
I see.
But you have to know how to dilute it and how to make it. But here it tells you 10 gallons is 1 teaspoon. 1 teaspoon. That's all it takes to.
Well, I'm so glad you're informing our audience today and all of us in the studio. This is very valuable. I know that you've been a couple of years back at Promise Christian University. You held a wonderful seminar for us on the dangers of chemical biological warfare and what we can do to save ourselves. And I know we had a pretty full house that day.
Yeah.
People really wanted to be and needed to be informed. And I know these are very instructive and very knowledgeable because you're considered an expert in our country in this area. And I think it's wonderful. So are you also teaching these things, Doctor, in other places and other seminars and around the place? Is that right?
The University of Southern California sent me around in their speaker bureau to various parts of the city. And
I know that you've been an instructor, you've been a professor of medicine at USC too.
Well, I still teach pulmonary physiology at USC School of Medicine,
Oh my.
And I do what I used to get paid for, I now do free.
Well, that's nice of you to do that.
And so I do that twice a week. And for me, it's life-saving. I'm 81 years old. I got to keep active.
Well, you're still a young man, you know.
Thank you.
Moses didn't get started till he was 80, you know.
Well, I don't know if I could spit the water or not. But
well, you've done pretty good about instructing us about this kind of water.
This is simple stuff you can keep in your car and household stuff.
Sir.
And
Wow.
you can buy these bags, Ziploc bags. I
All
got
right.
this at the drugstore.
Sure.
And so
Well, these are just simple things that you can get in any of the stores, but these are life-saving things that can be used at that moment. My goodness.
you get one of these and fill it with the bleach, and you put it in your big bag, a really big bag, with a sponge,
Right.
and then you're ready for big time. So this, when you get a contamination from any neurological agent or any agent, you fill this with water and you add the bleach to it, making a 50-50 solution. And then you just sponge yourself off. And you can do that before the first responders get there.
Will you notice an immediate reaction? Will your body realize that something's positive is taking place?
When you know you've been exposed,
Yeah.
your pupils change size and you'll get tunnel vision.
Oh.
The room gets dark and you'll get tunnel vision, and you'll drool and your nose will run. Now you look at the guy next to you and you see him drooling. You're doing it too. So
Oh
you kind of want to run away from the guy that's sitting next to you drooling.
Right. I see.
So,
Yeah,
but-
something's going on
but
here.
that tells you that everybody in the room is in the same position.
Wow.
So you know you've been exposed. So it's important that you get out of the area, because anything you've inhaled the body will immediately defend itself.
Right.
but it can't if you're absorbing it. So you got to get it off your skin and off your clothes.
And how many minutes do you have to do this? Would you say
About
once
nine,
you realize
about
you're
9 minutes.
9 minutes? That could be a
very short time.
matter of life and death.
You
Actually.
can't just sit around and talk about it. Should we do this? Should we do that?
Yeah.
I don't want to take my clothes. Okay. I mean, you'll die with your clothes on.
Right.
Like die with your
It's-
boots on. Remember that?
Exactly. Yes.
When we were kids.
Wow. Well, I'm so glad that you're instructing our nation and our people about this very important thing of the chemical warfare, chemical exposure to these things. And we know that some people use those kind of things to sort of in a warfare situation. I was going to ask too about your medical, your teaching at USC. You're still very much involved, not only in teaching and training people about the chemical things that we talked about today, but you're also still teaching at USC.
I teach pulmonary medicine and pulmonary physiology.
Wow.
And the old story, thank you for smoking.
I see. I
So,
see.
You,
And I noticed inside of your coat and your tie kind of advertises one of our schools across town here, and I think it's very, very wonderful. My wife too went to, she's a Trojan.
Modest.
You're being very modest, doctor, but very loyal to USC, of course, and that's great. And I noticed that you have a beautiful medal, and I've been admiring that since you walked in. And I know that's not exactly the Medal of Honor, but that does bring a lot of honor. Could you tell us about that medal?
Well, that's from the Sons of the American Revolution, which I'm a member, and it's a citizenship award.
Wow.
And then I have a couple of more. My wife didn't think I should.
So you are actually a member of the Sons of the
Yeah. My ancestors go back to the Revolutionary War.
Revolutionary War. Wow.
And so we fought for the country. Our family created, or helped create the
Yes.
Constitution.
My goodness.
And we feel very strongly about it. So
That's a beautiful
having joined and I have not yet been invited to talk to them yet about this, but that day will come.
Oh, it will, Doctor, and we'll have to have you on the show again because there's so many things we want to hear you share with our audience and with all of us here today in the studio. This is just, I'm so thrilled to know that you chose the medical profession, and even as a member of the Sons of the Revolution, you are still contributing to the nation through medicine and through educating people. And now today, not only educating medical students at USC, but the general public to give us an awareness of what we're facing today in this chemical, biological things that could take place. I think it's just commendable, and I honor you for what you're doing. And I understand you belong to another organization that I belong to called United States Volunteers Joint Services Command.
Yes.
And in that, you have an Army commission I believe you're a Major General today,
yes.
as a medical officer.
And I am affiliated with the Medical Reserve Corps, which is under the Homeland Security.
Oh, yes.
And they do a lot of they're the first responders in many of these cases, and we, USVJSC, provide supplemental people when they're in Long Beach, and Long Beach is a very hot location for terrorism, because when you realize how much of the nation's economy comes across that port.
That's right.
Something like 40%, or I may be wrong on that number, but it's a large number.
Yes.
So if you can disrupt Long Beach and disrupt that port,
my goodness,
then all those people there can be used as pawns in an effort to disrupt
I see. Well, well, we need to know that. It's sad to hear those statistics, but I know it's very valid, and we need to be aware as the citizens of our country. And in closing out, we just have a couple more minutes, Doctor. What would you advise our people in general in America? Now you talk about these things, what should we just continue being educated in these areas, and obviously and aware? We need to be aware.
You need to be aware of the simple things that you can have on your possession to help you survive. The
Yes.
water and the hypochlorite and the bags and the sponges. They don't seem like much until
Right.
you need them. But you should have them in your car, because wherever you are, your car is probably close by.
Right. Absolutely.
And you have to have a knowledge of what to do. I mean, if you panic, in the expression we had in the Navy's, when in danger, when in doubt, run in circles, scream and shout.
That's right.
So if you do that, you have a chance.
Well, Doctor, I tell you, it's been a pleasure having you on our program today on Promise Christian Live TV, and we'd like to have you back on again and do a part 2 here, you know. And I know you have so much to share, and we only had a few minutes, but we certainly appreciate you being on our show, and we appreciate you and your life of dedication to medicine, to healing people, and also to your love for the nation to bring protection that way as well. Again, we want to thank Dr. John Mohler, one of the professors at USC in medicine, and also a very dear friend and a member of the USVJSC, United States Volunteers Joint Services Command, and his great work. And we appreciated him when he came out to Promise Christian University a couple of years ago. We had a seminar, and the place, of course, was packed. And we learned so many things today, very valuable things, kind of scary, but very, very important things today to know. And we want to thank you for tuning in to Promise Christian Live TV and our closing out of our program today. We'd like to just mention that if you're looking for a good Christian college, we'd love to have you consider Promise Christian University. You can see us on the website there. And we're enlarging our influence, and we're enlarging our classes, and God's adding on different departments. And of course we have theology, and we have business, and then of course we have other programming as well. But again, I want to thank you for tuning in today, and we'll see you next time. And God bless you real good.